There's another slide. So good morning. My name is John Moore. I am the global president of Media Hub. We are the media arm of the MullenLowe Group, part of IPG. If you're not impressed with that, either are my kids or my children, so don't feel bad. So first of all, I want to thank Mary and Catherine for letting me. Can everybody hear me okay? This is working back there? Okay. I want to thank Mary and Catherine for moving my slot. I think I was originally like 11 o'clock or something like that, because I've got to jump on a plane and get back to Boston because I've got a new business pitch tomorrow, you know, one of those things that I tend to do for a living. But before I do that, I get to talk about one of my favorite subjects in the world, and that's reigniting the art of creativity in media. But before I jump into this, I kind of want to tell you what this presentation isn't before I tell you what it is. So let's talk about what it isn't first. This is not an argument that we don't live in a data-driven world, because we do. If you think about it, the tech titans, the oligarchs, they control the world. If you just look at Facebook and Google, it's staggering. 50 cents, I thought that was my phone, 50 cents of every new digital dollar goes to Facebook and Google on a global basis. 70 cents of every new digital dollar in the US goes to Google and Facebook. And Facebook, Google, and Amazon and Apple, their market capitalization has increased by $2 trillion since the Depression in 2007 and 2009. And then there's these two kind of small companies, as I say with tremendous sarcasm. You might have heard of them, Tencent and Alibaba. Their sites go far beyond the borders of China. So again, just want to make it very clear, don't walk away and say John doesn't believe in data, because that's not what this is about. What this is about is an argument that the most undervalued, underinvested, and undertrained asset in the world is media creativity and teaching people how to be creative in media. So why does that feel like it's new news? I mean, if I were sitting in the audience, I might be thinking, well, marketing, we've always had to be creative. Media, we've always had to be creative. So how is that possible new news? My argument is that it is more important to be creative tomorrow than it is today or yesterday. I'm going to take you through 3 quick charts. I think all of you guys have probably seen these charts before, but I think it's a good reminder that this is the world we live in, this is the environment we live in, and this is why creativity is so damn important. So let's start out with this chart. I bet you've seen this, the rise of ad blocking. You know, it's interesting, about 2 years ago at Cannes, everybody was talking about ad blocking. I think people thought the sky was falling. And I think a lot of people feel it's subsided, and maybe we've kind of dodged a bullet. I don't think we've dodged a bullet at all. I mean, if you look at the numbers, they're pretty staggering, 15.7 in 2014, up to 32% in 2017. And if you hone in on 2016 for a second, you can see that number of 26.3%. If you look at 13 to 25-year-olds, that number is 66%. 13 to 25-year-olds, tomorrow's customer, 66% have ad blocking software. Now maybe the other thing you're saying is, yeah, John, but that's mostly desktop because it's much harder to install ad blocking software on mobile, and that's really where most people kind of either look at apps or they surf the web. But the reality is, if you look at this little device, which we all know is kind of attached to all of us, the numbers have increased from 2014, about 7.2 million, to 2017, about 29.7 million. So about 11% of all US adults have installed ad blocking software. By the way, in APAC, it's like 80 to 90%. If that doesn't send chills up your spine, then nothing will. So this is still a big problem. And then this little company called Google, they've announced that starting sometime in 2018, it's kind of a mystery when this is going to be released, but their new Google Chrome browser will not eliminate ads, but will eliminate bad ads. So Google is going to start to set the bar on what they can block and what they can't block. So this is still a major problem. Probably seen this chart a million times in presentations. You've got cord cutters, you've got cord nevers, same trajectory as ad blocking. The one thing I'm not even talking about here, which is probably makes most people nervous, is this idea of cord shavers. I think that's where you see most people going. In 2016, 12% of all people downgraded their cable package, only 6% upgraded their cable package. ESPN has been in the news a lot lately for maybe a lot of the wrong reasons. I have a lot of good friends at ESPN. They have been hemorrhaging 2 million subscribers a year since 2013. And the reality is we know this. Anybody, I have a 26-year-old and a 24-year-old daughter. Both of my kids, neither of them have cable. They believe in OTT. Buy a Roku, I can get every single thing I want. So this is a major problem because if you're a marketer, you can't stick as many 30-second ads in front of consumers anymore. And then last but not least, the rise of ad-free environments. And you know, this is kind of an interesting one because I think a couple years ago or 3 years ago, everybody said consumers kind of understand the deal. We get content for free and we have to tolerate shitty ads. But the reality is, a lot of people are saying we're seeing a macro trend right now where people are moving from an ad model to a subscription-based model. If you look at the far right, that was then. When is then? I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4 years ago. Then is pretty vague. I did that purposely. But now, think about all the environments that you can pay a pretty small amount of money to and never have to see another bad ad. Now, I'm just going to hone in on 2 companies because I think it crystallizes my point. Pandora. Pandora right now, 5% of all their subscribers are ad-free. Doesn't seem like a big number, but it's grown very quickly. That 5% adds up to 20% of their revenue. And Pandora is going on record of saying, we're no longer in the business of increasing our user base, we're in the business of increasing our subscriber base. Part of the reason, selfishly, is they've got a $363 million debt in royalty fees, and they believe that $9.99 a month is going to erase that debt. Candy Crush. The mobile gaming companies learned a long time ago that they can actually make more money if they take out the ads. Candy Crush took out the ads, they created a better environment, they've increased revenue by 35%. So you've got ad blocking, you've got cord cutters, cord nevers, cord shavers. There's tons of environments now that I can subscribe to that I don't need to see ads. So if that isn't good enough for you, maybe somebody far more important and far more wealthier than yours truly, a guy named Andrew Essex. Maybe you believe in what Andrew said. Great little book. I read about this in the New York Times probably about a month and a half ago. I feel like Andrew should personally be thanking me. I bought a ton of these, sent them to a lot of my clients, told everybody about this book. He really isn't talking about the end of advertising. What he's talking about is the end of bad advertising, and I've actually seen him on stage. He says the end of bad advertising was not a pithy as title of end of advertising, so that's why he called it this. But it's a really interesting book, and if you don't read it, I'll give you kind of the 5 crown jewels that Andrew talks about in his book. So the first one, and I love his language, I love his nomenclature, new paths, create new paths versus befouling old ones. So in media, one of the things that I get most excited about is when my team actually creates canvases that have never existed before versus always thinking about predetermined units. Interruption is no longer the default paradigm. Yep, I said paradigm. Remember we said yesterday, for those of you, that we had to eradicate paradigm from our nomenclature? Well, I guess it's still part of our nomenclature. But what Andrew really talks about is this command and control environment where marketers could command you or control you, and then they could command you. And what he's saying is that model is going to be destroyed in the next 5 years. We had some fun in rehearsal yesterday with no gas. This is actually one of my favorites. I won't make you guess what the acronym is, but this is for all brands that basically think the consumers are waiting with bated breath to hear their advertisements. They're not, because nobody gives a shit. So it's just something that every marketer kind of needs to think about before they put an impression out there. And then the next 2 I'm just going to build because I kind of realize they kind of say the same thing, and I like the last one. This is actually my favorite. If I could take away one thing from the book that I've been pontificating ad nauseum to my team, and trust me, I can pontificate ad nauseum with my team, is this idea, be the thing, not the thing that sells the thing. What does he mean by that? Think about all the advertising you see out there. It's typically the thing that sells the thing versus the thing that people are actually talking about. That's a really good bar and a really high bar. I'm not saying every single impression that you put out there is going to be that. That's unrealistic. But some of the impressions you put out there has to be the thing. I'm actually going to show you some examples of work we've created and show you some work that I wish we had created. And I think the thread between all of this is they really were the thing. So I've kind of maybe painted this really doom and gloom scenario for the industry. Actually, I think quite the opposite. I think it's actually wonderful news. You like this visual? We've got great people back in the office that do this stuff for me. This is all wonderful news for creativity in media because it really means we have to be creative. Consumers can throw out, screen out, and tune out unwanted messages very, very easily, like never before, and it's only going to get worse moving forward. So what has my media company done? So we've thought a lot about this, and what we did, we probably developed this about a year and a half ago, and then I was sitting around on a Saturday, and I came up and I sent a couple people, and I said, you know what, we can't call this our content and creative group. That's really boring. We need to brand it. I think Horizon does a really good job of branding stuff and getting in the news. So we called this our R&D group. We called this our Radical and Disruption group. We got a really cool logo that actually moves. And what this is we created a creative group inside a media agency. Now, why the hell would we do that? What this group really consists of is not classically trained art directors, classically trained copywriters. They are brilliant people. But what they do is they create creativity in isolation. They're creating the next great 30-second spot in the Super Bowl. They're creating a wonderful 14 by 48 billboard that everybody's going to be talking about, or they create a 2-minute video that we're going to splash all over the web, including YouTube, that is going to make people cry and the hair stand up on their back. That's not what my team does. What my team does, or what this team does, is they co-create content. They co-create content with avant-garde media partners, typically avant-garde digital partners, like a Nylon, like a YouTube, like an Uncrate. And what I find about classically trained art directors and copywriters, they don't want to co-create content with media partners. That's not how they're wired. They're wired to create things in isolation, and I say this all the time. I think a modern-day media person has to think about themselves in the content business and has to think about themselves in the creativity business. And I was very proud because the person that runs this group, somebody who I love, Laurel Boyd, a media person, this year Adweek named her one of the top 100 creative people. She was the only, I'll argue, if I look at all the 100, a lot of them have weird titles. I mean, it's amazing how many titles we're creating in advertising these days. But I will argue she was the only media person. But what I'd like to see next year is 5 media people there and then 10 media people there. And we have a playbook that we've kind of been working on with about 7 to 10 principles. I don't want to give all my secret sauce away because we obviously compete with a lot of other media companies, and you know, we have obviously some knowledge that I don't want to share, but I'll just kind of tease you with kind of 3. Creating custom content is usually not the answer, and this doesn't necessarily come from me. This comes from Law and our team. Native advertising, 90% of it is bad advertising disguised as not advertising. It's just not good. So if we think that native all of a sudden is the answer, it typically isn't. And I'm not saying that we can't do great native advertising every once in a while, but historically native advertising is not all that good. This is my favorite. Relying on our media partners for ideas, a recipe for mediocrity, and I think I could have used stronger language than mediocrity, but I'm trying to keep this PG, or at least PG-13. How many times, you know, do you see an agency go out, it's Monday, and they send a note to the whomever it is, the media partner, and say, we've got 48 hours, you need to come up with 5 great ideas for us. I mean, it just doesn't work that way. Media people are in the business of selling space. They're typically not in the business of creativity. So what we do is this group comes up with the ideas themselves, then goes to, let's say, an ESPN or a Nylon or an Uncrate or Refinery 29 or whomever we're working with, and then we develop that idea with them. The media partners are really good at taking our ideas and then making them idiosyncratic to the environment they're in. But we do not rely on them coming up with the ideas. And the last one, I think, is maybe the most important thing I will say, and I hear this from clients all the time. It's not creativity for creativity's sake. I think there's a lot of people who say, my God, I have to be creative. I have to put like 3 or 4 ideas out there. What I think I hear clients reject all the time, in fact, I just heard a very large client of ours tell me about this. She said, you know, John, I feel like the ideas your team is putting in front of me don't have a moral compass. I don't know how they're rooted back to the consumer, and I don't know how they're rooted back to our reason for our brand. So I think that's really important. It's just not idea for idea's sake. It's got to be rooted in the brand, but much more importantly, rooted in the consumer. And then another thing I hear all the time is, and I try to tell my team, is a new technology is not an idea. I've literally heard people say, hey, I went to the client, John, and Snapchat has these 3 new things that they're trying to sell. Isn't that great? I brought 3 ideas to the client. No, that's not an idea. Again, a new technology is not an idea. And finally, my simple filters, IOU, it's got to be interesting, it's got to be original, one side, or it's got to be useful. If you literally are pushing that out there and you can't say it reaches one of those 3 things, I just honestly don't think the consumer is going to be that interested in it. The useful part, that's where I get excited about data and technology and personalization. I think that's where the whole useful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of wrap up and show you 5 different examples that I thought really were the thing versus the thing that's being the thing. And there we go. So I'm going to show you 3 of ours. So we are the media AOR for Netflix. We run that out of our LA office. We're the media AOR for JetBlue. We run that out of our Boston office. And we're the media AOR for Patron. We also run that out of our Los Angeles office. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a quote that we hear from the client, because I think it's always good. I've been in this business. It's funny, we were laughing the other day, and I think I'm in that period where I say north of 20 years, because if I really tell you how long I've been in the business, I feel incredibly old. So let's just say north of 20 years. And I think sometimes what I've learned is the old Mark Twain adage that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listen to your clients. It's amazing how valuable some of the stuff they say. So let's start with Netflix. One of the things we hear over and over again for them is shoot for the moon. I mean, how inspiring is that? I mean, by the way, they are a beloved client. I feel so honored that I get to come to work every day and work for this amazing brand. They're also really, really nice people. Sometimes one of the guys that runs my LA office, a guy named Sean Cork, and I always say, like, when is the shoe going to drop? Because it just doesn't seem like they spend a lot of money. They're an amazing client. They push us. It's just too good. But anyway, this is what we hear from them a lot. So the first example I'm going to give is Black Mirror. Hopefully we have some Black Mirror fans in the room. Black Mirror, for those of you who don't know it, the easiest way to describe it, it's a modern-day Twilight Zone. It's a dystopian society. And what they do is show the good and bad of technology. But usually it's the bad of technology. The other thing is the target or the segment of the consumer group that we were trying to get to watch Black Mirror were young men who we knew were early adopters of technology. So technology was a big word that we could push off of when we thought about this idea. And I love what Sarah said, by the way, about the whole idea of quantity. You can't get to quality without quantity. I completely endorse that, and I think that's how we got this idea. Last thing I'll say on this idea, it just last week won Best in Show for the Media Post OMA Awards, which I was very proud of, and it also won a Adweek Media Plan of the Year. We were one of, I have to do a little bragging, we were one of 3 media companies to win 2 or more at the Adweek Media Awards. So without further ado, let's play the video that we submitted.
How do you reach the unreachable? You don't reach. You set a trap. Put some bait in there. Let them come to you. The most unsettling show on Netflix was heading into season 3. It's sort of a modern Twilight Zone that warns us of our societal dependency on technology. Spoiler alert, it never ends well. The show had a loyal following, but needed more, and their kind of viewer was the kind that hated advertising. They were highly educated, fairly wealthy, and they all had ad blockers, every single one of them. They were the great wall of leave us the fuck alone. So we created a digital media hack, worked with their most revered destinations, bypassed ad blocking software by hard-coding messages directly into these sites, and sidestepped the ad blockers upon page load. Basically, we targeted the untargetable, and this ass-backward strategy worked. It proved that everyone is susceptible to the dark side of technology, and the people who hated advertising the most talked about it the most. We were spreading the right way. We were being passed along like a secret to the ad-hating publications of the world, and they were passing us on to more ad haters. Our audience grew. This was about earned impressions. Translation, dirt cheap. Something every client, even multi-billion-dollar companies, appreciate. In the end, we hacked the unhackable. They could block anything they wanted, but they couldn't block their own curiosity.
So So hopefully you would agree that that is be the thing versus the thing that sells the thing. The genius behind that was a guy named Simeon Edmonds who works in the R&D group. He worked for a social agency, he worked for a creative agency, and then we hired him at a media agency. So sometimes we call them misfits. We kind of look for misfits. We have plenty of people that know how to put a flow chart together. That's important, but we can't have a group of individuals who just know how to do flow charts. So the second Netflix one is Narcos. My wife and I just binged season 3. This is season 2. I don't think I'm giving anything away because it is a nonfiction story, but season 1 is the rise of Pablo Escobar. Season 2 is the downfall of Pablo Escobar. So basically the whole theme to season 2 is on the run with Pablo. So what we thought about is how can our media be on the run? How can we think about the entire media platform based on that language? This also, we were very proud, won a Silver Lion at Cannes this year for best integrated use of media. So big deal. Silver Lions are nice.
Netflix tasked us with promoting the second season of Narcos. We knew our marketing had to live up to the show's level of intrigue. Season 1 viewership revealed that our core target loved and obsessed over the specific details of Pablo Escobar's life. To rekindle the love and ignite excitement for Season 2, we went on the run with Pablo, telling the stories of his escape in our target's favorite places, with each story uniquely crafted for its environment.
Pablo Escobar has escaped.
On the anniversary of Escobar's escape from prison, we jump-started the show's return by unearthing archival news footage and placing it on CNN's homepage, along with our trailer. We followed up with custom TV spots during the national conventions, which featured real footage from politicians and worked to resurface the conversation around Escobar and America's war on drugs. On Wired, we told the story of how Escobar was captured using Cold War surveillance technology, including an interactive experience of the radio triangulation method. On GQ, we highlighted his escape wardrobe, which serendipitously aligns with current fashion trends, and even recreated his favorite sweater as a gift to influencers who attended our Facebook Live Q&A with the cast. On Wall Street Journal, we set the stage for Season 3 with a deep dive into how the Colombian cartels moved and hid their billions of dollars in cash. Finally, we brought details to life through unique and contextual out-of-home. TSA bins reminded would-be DEA agents leaving key markets to only bring the essentials. Bus shelters were filled with $2 million in scorched cash, the same amount Escobar burned to keep his family warm. And when a vandal broke in, thinking it was real money, we turned it into an opportunity, responding with a message from Escobar. As the campaign ended, conversation and engagement was proof of our success. Time spent with our content exceeded 4 minutes. Over 260 million social impressions were generated, and the show took top spot as the most popular digital series in the US.
So you can see we have a lot of fun with Netflix, a lot of great stories to draft off of. So let's shift gears real quickly. This is something we hear from our JetBlue client a lot. This is Marty St. George. I bet anybody who works on the agency side has basically heard this. Maybe it's more like, hey, for every dollar I spent, I need $10 back. So he's doing us a favor. He's only asking for $5 back. But basically what this was an effort for the JetBlue credit card. It was their first effort. They were obviously behind a lot of the other airlines and loyalty cards. And one of the things we heard in consumer research was the fact that most people that use loyalty cards, they think the points take way too long to add up. And they basically realize that no matter how often they fly, they're never going to be able to use any of them because either blackout dates or they just take so long to accumulate. So what we did is we wanted to kind of draft off of showing that our points add up faster and showing in kind of real life through media how fast you can get to your next vacation. We took out the first live billboard in Times Square, tapped into the Google API, and here's the story. So my last example from work that we did is Patron. And Lee Applebaum is, they're a client based in Dallas. Lee Applebaum is the CMO of Patron. I mean, honestly, I'm not patronizing him. He's just one of the smartest clients I've ever met in my life. I feel like he's always a step ahead of me, and I say with no humility at all. I like to think it takes a little bit of difficulty to be a step ahead of me, but he's always a step ahead of me. So basically what he wanted to do is, and he said this to me on a phone call, show the consumer we get them, John. I mean, the premium tequila market is incredibly competitive. You've got Casamigos, which George Clooney started, then just sold to Diageo recently for a ridiculous amount of money. You have Don Julio, you have 1800, and you have Patron. And the whole idea we wanted to come up with is just kind of show the consumer that we just kind of get them. So what we did is we came up with this idea to do real-time television. Everybody's talked about real-time digital. Dunk in the Dark, Oreo, probably the most famous, the most well-done. Hats off to 360i. They got all the accolades that they deserved. But I don't think anybody's actually tried to pull off real-time television or near-time real television. So we created this cultural calendar. We had kind of a national layer and a local layer. We've done 18 of these to date. The majority have been local, because local markets all kind of bond together over a certain thing much more than, let's say, what we do as Americans, especially today. So what we did is we created kind of this TV spot that was templatized, and for a very low production charge, we could just flip stuff in and out and literally feel like we were doing real-time television. This thing has a lot of legs. I think it can work in perpetuity. So I'm going to show you 3 examples, and what you're going to see is kind of the event, the cultural event we drafted off of, and then the TV spot we created immediately and then ran in germane content. Something so simple, but think about how much more powerful that is than just creating one Patron spot and just running it everywhere. That was kind of interesting. I was sitting, I'm actually a big golfer. I love golf. I was sitting there watching the US Open on a Sunday, and that phone is like 5 seconds from me all the time. I mean, it drives my wife effing crazy. I can't go like 8 seconds without looking at it. And I looked at it, and I saw a note from Lee Applebaum, and I knew we were in the middle of this campaign. I'm like, oh, shit. Sunday notes from clients are never good. So I kind of put it down for about 10 minutes, and I'm like, I gotta read it. And I'm just thinking he's gonna say like, oh my God, we blew the US Open or something like this. And I got that message from him, and I was like, wow, I think that's the first note from a client on the weekend that I've ever gotten in my life that has been positive. So to say the least, I was happy about that. Okay, no preamble, because these we did not do. I wish we had done them. One was Nike. It's just genius. I think it shows you what out of home can be versus just sticking an ad in a 14 by 48 billboard. And then the second is Snickers from one of our competitors, Mediacom. Hats off to Mediacom. This also, the one that I'm going to show you, Snickers, won Best in Show at the Adweek Media Awards.
Gender inequality could be right in front of us, but sometimes we don't see it. Pretty much the only sign with a female figure is the one used in the women's bathroom. But if both genders share the same city and passion for sports, why do 95% of urban signs in Bogota have only one male figure on them? Well, that's why Nike wanted to empower women in the way that helped to make a change. Introducing Nike Equality Signs. We created a direct idea that empowered women during the month of March. Throughout different media, we delivered thousands of invitations to activate Women's International Day, a simple ponytail magnet with a deeper purpose. Place this ponytail on any male traffic signs you see around parks and let's make a difference, because we are all athletes. This is how we gathered hundreds of women on a special Nike training session in which they were able to transform the average male traffic sign into a female one. The ponytail became a new way to bring down stereotypes and open streets, paths, and public parks to gender equality. This action got shared with other women across the country, generating a massive conversation in social and traditional media. All the buzz caught Bogota City Hall's attention, and the Office of Gender Equality joined the campaign to make it happen not just for one day, but forever.
La manera como la ciudad se ha visto representada ha sido a través de imágenes masculinas. Y es por eso que la ciudad nunca se ha pensado desde un enfoque de las mujeres. Mostrar a las mujeres es empoderarlas en el ejercicio ciudadano y en el ejercicio de sus derechos.
As a result, Nike was invited to co-create a whole batch of signs for main parks in the city. Signs that include both male and female athletes together, as it should be.
Son señales de igualdad y estamos muy felices que la alcaldía nos esté apoyando para demostrar que las mujeres podemos ser fuertes, somos atletas y las podemos empoderar.
Equality Signs, making a permanent statement for equality.
I mean, just genius. And I think, you know, a lot of what we talked about yesterday was that higher sense of purpose. I think that certainly is a higher sense of purpose. And then here was the last one. After this, I've just got two final thoughts, then I'm off the stage. But I think this one is going to pay off my final thought.
Guys, what color is this sock? Blue? You're the dumbest
I hate it.
ever.
Go, you idiot.
The internet is an angry place. But what if that's just because we're hungry? Luckily, Snickers has created the Hungerism, a hunger algorithm that monitors the mood of the internet. So when anger goes up, Snickers prices at 7-Eleven go down. Now when the weather's crappy, you get cheaper Snickers.
Global warming sucks.
Political scandal, cheaper Snickers.
I don't understand.
Meteor strike, definitely cheaper Snickers.
So over meteors.
To lock in a price, hit Get a Snickers on your mobile to get a reduced price barcode, then simply head down to your local 7-Eleven to claim your Snickers. Snickers Hungerism. The angrier the internet, the cheaper the Snickers. Get your low price bar at snickers.com.au. You're not you when you're hungry.
So here's two final thoughts. This is something I say all the time to my team. Media is everywhere. We are only limited by our imagination. I'm just a true believer in that. The stuff that I get most excited about is, again, media that's created outside of the predetermined units. And then this is some nomenclature that I read in Adweek about 3 weeks ago, and I've started talking to clients about it. And they really like it, and I really like it. I just wish I was smart enough to come up with it. And this idea of imaginative intelligence, which I love. And I think the Snickers is a good example. I think JetBlue is a good example of this. This whole idea that creativity and data are mutually exclusive. I'm not saying anybody thinks they're mutually exclusive, but sometimes I think we do think about them in separate boxes. The real power moving forward is bringing those two together. So you think about Snickers. Snickers was tremendously imaginative, but the intelligence piece was all from the mood of the internet. The whole idea of JetBlue was tremendously imaginative. The intelligent part was tapping into the Google API. So I think this whole idea of imaginative intelligence is really going to be a beacon moving forward, and certainly something that we're going to be thinking a lot about at Media Hub. So here's my marching orders. Now go out and create media that consumers will seek out, talk about, and share. But the good thing about everybody in this room is you don't have to listen to me, so you guys can do whatever you want. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you, John. Great job. One more round of applause for John.